Okay, Jinny, I'm gonna go over your start technique. So it's mainly the quick strokes, those 20 strokes after the three long, as we're going into that 95, about 9,500 stroke rate. I think masters average around 95 in that range. So if we look closely here, want you to try to work on retwisting yourself a little bit more aggressively. Your timing is okay, but I think because you're not quite twisting your core up enough, so right here at the front, okay, lower arm does get fully extended, but in terms of how much you're twisting compared to, let's say, these guys here, okay, if I were to, I know we can't really see your inner shoulder, but right, we can see all of these guys have a nice line through this way. If I were to connect your shoulders, it would be something a little bit more like this. So in terms of a camera view, it's a little bit off because I'm not directly on your gut on the side of everyone here, but you can see just by nature of, as we go through this range, that final toast forward, extension forward. You do have some twist, but getting open just a little bit more. Okay, that's going to also help with the paddle angle that you end up catching in at. So if we look carefully, right, top of your blade is right here where your the top of your paddle meets with that wooden paddle shaft there, so we can see pretty clearly. So what I'm looking for is when you get into that water here, because you don't quite have the same differential in that shoulder line up top. Once you get fully buried, there's not as much power that you can generate from untwisting once you get fully buried, right? So if we look at the relative motion of, right, these paddlers in front of you versus yours, once we get fully buried here, so from this point through there, just a little bit less work coming from the core versus just some arm movement, right? I mean, you do get some untwist going in there, but a little bit more. A lot of it is going to depend on how much you're setting up your core to do that work as well. So upper back, a little bit more twist as you're reaching forward. Okay. I'm going to skip forward closer to the end of the race here where I have, again, some side footage. Bear with me for a sec. Okay, so even in the long stroke right now, so as you're going forward here, pretty decent amount of kind of hinge going forward, but I know this is as far as I can zoom in here, so I might also take a look at video from previous practice. Okay. It might get even more pixelated when I upload online in a second, but sorry. Okay. Let me go back a little bit. Kind of trying to demonstrate here. So I know this past Sunday's practice, I had mentioned that your right side looks better, at least in terms of where your top arm ends up aiming for on the recovery. From this side view, what we're looking at more is how much twist you're getting at the front of your stroke. So we're looking really mainly at how much of your back here is showing to the camera. I think if you're twisting a little bit more, I would see a little bit more of your rear vest showing. And then because of that, I think we see it a little bit better here when we're going into this long stroke. As soon as you start catching in here, okay, I'm going to highlight some paddle angles here for you. Well, it looks kind of similar to, looks actually really similar to Felix. I think the point I'm trying to make is, right, depending on the posture of your back, it will kind of dictate the point at which you get fully buried. So we're trying to get that nice full bury closer to the front end of your stroke. And what we're seeing right here is your blade doesn't get fully submerged until about this point in the stroke. So ideally I want your blade to be buried somewhere in front over here. Okay, in that positive region. I think the only way you're going to really be able to achieve that is by opening up that chest a little bit more, rotating a little bit more in the front of the stroke. Because I think about, like, your arm angle, your outer arm angle, is pretty close to the same as everyone in front of you. It's mainly the posture of your core. So they're getting their paddle buried in the front here because that... Okay, so let me show what I'm talking about. Arm angles are all about the same here, but it's mainly the height of that outer shoulder, the posture of that outer shoulder, and it's related to how much you've twisted and made that shoulder a little bit lower into that, closer to the water. That's going to get you that angle and corresponding stroke length that we're looking for, starting from the front of the stroke. Okay, I think that pretty much covers what I was seeing from the races here. All right.